Tell me I'm not the only one who does this. I'll be in a store and I'll see a comic book I've read a million times that I really love that's for sale incredibly cheap. And I buy it. I have it already. It's not worth anything, but somehow because it's there and I love it so much and I want to experience it again, I feel the need to buy this book a second, third, and fourth time. I don't know why I do it. Do you do that? Tell me in the comments if you want to, but the point being, one of my worst offenders, one of the books that I find myself buying all the time, I've probably got 10 copies of this thing, and I've had to tell myself no on numerous occasions, is Batman number 433, a very much lesser-known Batman work. I don't know why it's a lesser-known work, because two important things happen in it that are really worth knowing about. Besides the fact that it is one of my favorite comic stories of all time, and one that deserves better recognition, it was by John Byrne, and it features the death of Batman. Why don't people talk about this book? I have a theory why, and it's because it was part of a larger, sustained multi-part story arc. See, back in the late 1980s, editor Denny O'Neill's office was constantly working to find new ways to creatively get more people to read and buy Batman comics. And one thing that they popularized was the multi-part story arc. You had year one, you had year two, you had Death in the Family, the death of Jason Todd, which we've covered in a previous episode, link above. And the fourth multi-part story arc that they attempted was the many deaths of the Batman. That's the one nobody talks about. Which is weird. I mean, it's John Byrne writing Batman right at the tail end of his time at DC. He had just come off the Superman books, had one foot out the door, and somehow or other came in to do this one story arc. Surprising more people don't talk about it. Now, I'm not a massive Byrne fan. I respect Byrne immensely. He made important contributions to the medium and to several really key franchises. Certainly X-Men, Fantastic Four, She-Hulk, Superman. Wouldn't be the same without his input. Heck, we wouldn't have Alpha Flight. He did a lot of important stuff. I'm not an obsessed fan. I think that's important to know because this book rocks my world anyway. It's interesting, too, because this Many Deaths of Batman storyline that wasn't a hit, we'll talk about why that might have been in a moment, John Byrne didn't draw it. And in this issue, Batman number 433, which he has the writing credits on, he actually scripted 2 words of dialogue. This is a comic book that has literally 2 words of dialogue in the entire issue. It's drawn by Jim Aparo, and Jim Aparo turns in some great work. Aparo has a very distinct style that you love or you hate or you're indifferent to. This is some of his better stuff for this era in his career. He certainly turns it on for several panels, most memorably the one in which Batman's dead body is discovered crucified. A really dark and powerful moment. John Byrne did not do breakdowns. He didn't help visually, as far as I can tell. He was the writer, and he chose to write a story with only 2 words in it. To be fair, the Many Deaths of the Batman, the premise behind that storyline is that different people who helped Batman become Batman, his trainers, have all been found by some serial killer who is dressing each one as Batman and then killing them brutally. So it's not actually Batman who's dying, except that in Batman number 433, it kind of sort of is. You see, this is important. This might be why The Many Deaths of the Batman is not a better remembered storyline. Part 1, issue number 433, is its own self-contained story. It's a story about Batman dying and the world of Gotham grieving as a result. It's an immensely powerful story that Batman has died several times since, and let's be honest, will die many times again. I don't think it's ever been done this well. I don't think it ever possibly can be done this well again. This is sort of the perfect goodbye to the Caped Crusader. On the very, very, very last page is where it's revealed this wasn't actually Batman. There's another Batman who's been killed, who's about to be discovered. And so Batman's 434 and 435 tell a sustained narrative about these killings and about Batman solving the crimes and yada, 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 yada. It's a forgettable storyline, in my opinion. Maybe you liked it. It's certainly not iconic. It certainly doesn't warrant the big logo and the big name, The Many Deaths of the Batman on the covers and all this big hurrah. But part 1, it's its own story, and it's gorgeous. I'm going to do some spoilers here, but they're not really spoilers. You already know it's not really Batman who's dead. You already know everyone's grieving Batman. I'm just going to walk you through what makes this story so amazing and sort of wonder out loud with you why Byrne was compelled to do this. So essentially what we see is the police discovering Batman's broken body. They rush him to the ER. In the ER, you see one person trying to remove the mask, as an attendant would do when you have somebody come in with trauma, and another attendant prevents him from doing that out of respect to Batman and who he is. You see Batman flatline on the table, and you see the completely forlorn reactions to all the people in the ER who tried to save him, understanding the gravity of what has just happened, that they've lost this hero to Gotham. Throughout the rest of the issue, it's a reaction issue. It's just watching his villains at Arkham Asylum discover this and feel enraged that it wasn't them who did it, or perhaps that the game is over. Unfortunately, you can see the Joker's reaction because he just died back in Batman number 429. He's not coming back for 2 years. So he's out of this. But you see the Penguin, you see Two-Face, you see these criminals really mourning over their adversary in a very powerful way. You see Dick Grayson discover the news by looking at a newspaper cover, and you see his rage and his grief as well. Commissioner Gordon, Alfred, of course, just watching in the everyday people in Gotham too, just grieving, and there are no words, and that's kind of the point. A comic without words had been done before. Anybody here who's a fan of G.I. Joe, perhaps the comic book at Marvel done by Larry Hama, G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issue number 21, 4 years earlier, did an issue with no words whatsoever, for a very different reason. That issue featured Snake Eyes, a mute character, and the issue was sort of attempting to show the action from his perspective. It was also an all-out, action fest from beginning to end, and in sustained action scenes, words are kind of superfluous. There's really not much of a reason for them, so muting the words draws more attention to the action. It's a fun story. Whether or not John Byrne was thinking about that when he did this issue, the lack of words is for a very different reason. There are no words, in a moment where you suddenly come to a huge realization that the person who'd been here protecting us will never be here again. It's just page after page of sustained grief. Finally, we do get 2 words late in the issue. Commissioner Gordon gets the news, leaves a conference, flies back to Gotham, speeds his way to the hospital, shows up to the morgue, sees the body, looks at everybody around him and says, "Get out." And those are the only words spoken in the entire issue. Gordon then is alone with Batman, and you can almost in his own head hear that final conversation playing out that he had always intended to have. The words he'd meant to discuss with him, the things that he'd meant to say, the things he'd meant to ask. And so he finally does decide he's earned the right to remove Batman's cowl, and it's an immensely powerful moment. That's also the moment where anybody who was confused realizes this is not Bruce Wayne under the cowl. Sure, the title The Many Deaths of the Batman should have given that away, but Byrne has been treating this with such dignity and power that we're not totally convinced it isn't Batman until that moment. And that's a powerful misdirection and confusion. Anyway, between Byrne's pacing, Apparo's amazing artwork, and this really powerful experiment in not speaking, Batman number 433 is an incredibly tasteful send-off for a character that we know is never actually really going to leave us. But for a moment, for just a moment, it feels like he is. And it feels powerful and earned. And to be fair, John Byrne sort of set the tone for everybody else. In Superman's death, a few years later, in Superman number 75, the moment where Lois is standing by his body, realizes he's gone and grieves, is completely silent and without words and without narration. That had to be inspired by this moment. In real death, when we grieve, there are no words, and man, Byrne got that. I don't know why this comic doesn't get more attention. It's so immensely powerful and beautiful. Had Byrne drawn it, I think it might have been even more powerful. I'm an Aparo fan, but he does have his limits, and some of those facial expressions aren't exactly right. But man, Batman 43 is an amazing issue. It's one of my favorite Batman comics of all time. Maybe one of my favorite mainstream DC or Marvel comics from the 1980s entirely. It's worth checking out, and you're probably going to find it in dollar bins. But Batman number 433. The Death of the Batman. kind of, really, sort of, until that last page is really, really, really worth checking out. If you know the issue, I would love if you'd hit the comments below, talk to me, and tell me what you think of that story. If you haven't seen it before, I hope you'll check it out. I don't know if there are any trade paperbacks of The Many Deaths of the Batman. It's a very much forgotten limited series. But the comic is out there and it's cheap, and I strongly encourage you to read it, check it out, and then come back and tell me what you thought of that too. If you found this video interesting at all, I hope you'll hit like and subscribe. It helps us out immensely, and I hope you'll check out our other content as well. Also, if you're looking for more conversation about classic comic books that's a little more involved and a little more in depth than the kind of stuff that you'll see on YouTube comments pages or, worse yet, Facebook groups, check us out at classiccomics.org, where we'd love to get to know you as a person, where you can make real friendships, form real connections, and be really involved in the community that actually wants to get to know you better. The Classic Comics Forum. We're not Olive Garden, but we are family. In the meantime, check out our other videos as well. We've got great stuff, not just on comic books. We've also got our podcast, CCF In Depth. We've got more of the Spinner Rack Redux. We've also got Beyond Transformers, sort of the runaway success of this page as of late. All about all these, bizarre Transformer robot toys are really fun if you're into that stuff at all. We've got classic chiller films if you like to talk about classic movies. There is so much to see. Check it out, talk to us, and come back and see us next time. In the meantime, stay weird.